Welcome and thank you for joining the channel. Please help this channel by liking and subscribing. We really appreciate it. There are no ads on this video. If you have any stories you would like me to share on this channel, comment below and your story will be featured in the video. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy these creepypastas accompanied by rain and thunder. I tried to carve smiles on people's faces, and something else happens. People look so miserable these days, and I don't like it when they are not smiling. It's a great turn off for me and completely throws me off. I do not like it at all, and especially on AM early Monday morning. All those miserable faces, and so I try to carve some smiles onto those faces. But they still turn upside down. It's not possible. And even when I carve a smiley face on a piece of fruit, the smile turns upside down. It's frightening, and there are so many upside down frowns. I even try to draw smiley faces on walls and simple stuff like paper. The smile always turns upside down. I went a bit crazy, and I carved a few smiles on a few miserable looking people outside. The carved smile turned upside down. It happens right in front of my eyes, and I have no idea why or how to stop it. It's the unsmiling man, and he doesn't like smiles. The unsmiling man likes frowns and miserable faces. I once carved a huge smile on someone's face, and I have seen this guy going to work with the miserable face for years. Couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't help myself, and the urge kicked in. I then carved the biggest smile on his face with the sharpest knife I could find. The unsmiling man turned it upside down. I hate the unsmiling man because I want to see positive faces and smiles. But this guy just seems to make everyone's faces so miserable. Just walking past people with miserable faces can ruin my day, and I really want to meet the unsmiling man. I want to go against him and carve a smile on his face. Then someone came to me with an actual image of the smiling man. This man was once chased by the unsmiling man, and he managed to take a picture of him. I carved a smile on his picture. His unsmiling face scratched out so impossibly long, and the unsmiling face was a creature itself. As I tried to carve a smile on the picture of the unsmiling man, and the picture started to move. Then the unsmiling man started to come out of the picture, and he recontorted his face to not be smiling anymore. I started to smile at him, and the smile was hurting him. Miserable, sad people who struggle to smile now empower the unsmiling man. The unsmiling man went back into the picture with my carved smile now missing. Back in 2010, my mom and my two aunts from my father's side went back to college to pursue teaching. The area where the college is located was more of a countryside. It's a beautiful area, but when the night comes, it gets really dark since it was a still developing city. The street lights aren't that bright. It was around 8 p.m. when they were heading back home from college. They only walked back home every day since it was only a 5 to 10 minute walk. My mom was at the front while two of my aunts were behind her walking and conversing. When she looked behind, she noticed someone was tailing them. She didn't think of it much since the girl behind my two aunts were also wearing the same college uniform as them. As they were walking down our street, my mom was dumbfounded when the street dogs started barking. They were very familiar with the street dogs that lived near us. The dogs would even wag their tails every time they walked by. That's when my mom started to grow suspicious, since we lived at the end of our street, yet the girl is still walking behind them. My aunts noticed my mom keep looking back at them. When they finally were at the gate of the house, she peeked behind once more, but the girl she saw wasn't there anymore. My mom told them someone was following us. My aunts raised their eyebrows. Huh? Nobody's there. My mom then told them that a girl with the same college uniform as them was tailing them. My aunts told my mom that when she started looking behind and kept on looking, they started looking behind them as well, but no one was there. The thing is, my mom was pregnant with my little brother at the time, and living in the province at night with someone pregnant is scary as hell here in the Philippines. There's a folklore here about a mythical creature called managala. It is told that managalas prey on pregnant women. It can serve its own upper torso and grow bat wings to fly and hunt at night, using its really long tongue to suck out the fetus out of the pregnant woman's womb. I don't normally believe in these things, but when I started hearing some noises crawling on our roof when my mom was pregnant, I was scared shitless. My grandmother would put cloves of garlic and salt around the house, especially on the windows, treating it like a vampire. Now, I don't know if my mom saw a ghost or some mythical creature, but it's still a creepy story that she still tells us to this day. My daughter was always a little odd. She struggled to make friends. Ever since we moved to New Mexico, other children called her weird. When I tried to arrange play dates with other kids from her school, she'd sit in her room reading ghost stories and refuse to come out. Frankly, I didn't know how to help her. Her therapist in Santa Fe said she withdrew in words as a coping mechanism. It had been 3 years since my wife had died, but she still hadn't processed the loss. So when she told me she had an imaginary friend, I wasn't a bit surprised. Relieved, even. It was the happiest I'd seen her in months. His name was Old Lamplight. He comes at night, Daddy, she said. We talked through the window. It was a little creepy at first, but after late night chats with her friend, she slept better than she had in a long time. I thought maybe she was finally healing, until I dug a little deeper. What does Old Lamplight look like? I asked one morning. She looked like she didn't feel well. He's got a glowing face and no eyes, she said, yawning over her cereal. He carries a little box that won't stop screaming. He says, I'm special. She didn't seem worried, but something about it made my skin crawl. Things got worse. She'd wake up in the night begging for him to go away. I'd run up to her bedroom to find nothing out of place, only a strange taste like copper in the air. One evening, she complained that Lamplight's box was so loud it hurt her ears. Then she collapsed. I rushed her to the hospital, where my worst nightmare was confirmed. Bone cancer. She was only 8 years old. We tried every therapy, every treatment, nothing helped. Her cancer was so aggressive, it even baffled the doctors. It metatized into her eyes, rendering her nearly blind. She hallucinated, howling that Old Lamplight was alone without her. I couldn't cope. One evening I left the hospital and hit the bar. Got talking to an old timer. You ever hear of somebody called Old Lamplight? I asked. He thought for a moment, swirling his beer. You don't mean old Johnny Lamplight, do you? I shrugged. He went on. Legend goes Johnny used to take his Geiger counter and go uranium prospecting out in the hills. Way back in the day, you'd see his lamp at night going over the mountains. He drained his glass. Story is he got caught out of Los Alamos when the government tested the atom bomb. They say he's still out there. Not dead. Worse. I was about to buy him another drink when I got a frantic call from the hospital. Mr. Peters, we have urgent news about your daughter. What's happened? Is she alright? Is she dead? I asked, panicking. No, sir. The voice on the line stopped. She's gone. Whenever someone asked Lola about the eyelid on her forehead, she wouldn't say anything and distance herself from them. I was probably her only friend, though I really couldn't be called that. I was the only one who didn't ask her. Not because I was mindful, but because I was one of the most introverted sophomores to ever exist. Me and Lola were the types of kids that nobody would notice, not even if we went missing. Her worst enemy was obviously Sean. He was a prime example of humanity's devil. There was a good reason everyone thought he was the reason his baby brother's eyes and heart were found in the river. The only thing keeping him behind bars was the lack of evidence. He never even got detention most of the time. Our school was way too understaffed. Look, it's Grandma Head. Sean would always jeer as he pointed to her cranium. Lola would always have lunch next to me, leading to everyone thinking we were doing it. Sometimes her third eyelid would open just a bit and you could barely see the black of the pupil staring back at you. Yesterday, as I was walking home, I was shocked as I caught Lola and Sean behind the school. She shivered slightly before Sean. Come on, wrinkled bitch, open up. He pushed his fingers into her forehead, ready to pry her unseen eye open. Thankfully, he didn't see me approaching when I sunk my knife into his neck. Lola smiled, and I smiled back. You're gonna help with the body. For the first time since she ever started school, Lola spoke. Don't worry. Then, her third eye opened, but it wasn't an eye, it was a mouth. But it wasn't a mouth, it was an abyss. It wasn't even black, just the color you'd see when you're blind. The nothingness split out of her head like the biblical flood. Nothing biblical about this, though. God could not have created her. The universe itself could not have created her. My eyes sunk into the nothingness, and my mind reeled into a frenzy of nothing, of non-existence, of void. And then her eye closed, and his body was gone. Thanks for dealing with him, she beamed. If you listened real closely, you could hear the nothing in her voice. Nowadays, she smiles a little whenever she sees me. I don't smile back. How could I be near something so other? I'm scared of what she could do if she found out. If she found out I was only an apprentice. If she found out who really butchered Sean's brother. If she found out that I walked in on her and Sean for a reason. Most of all, I'm scared of what would have happened to me if Sean hadn't been harassing Lola that day. It began a month ago, when Emma found out her left pinky toe missing in the shower. Emma was crying in the shower that day. Mother had said something about how Dad leaving them was her fault. Emma knew that wasn't true because she still saw Dad every other week up until a year ago. Dad had said over and over it wasn't her fault. He said if he'd messed up with that lawyer, he would have been the one raising Emma. Emma had shook then. Mother wasn't so bad, just misunderstood. Now, Emma's pinky toe was missing. Surely it didn't matter much. Not many people need a pinky toe. Olympic runners and foot models, maybe. Then she woke up the next morning to her right pinky toe also missing. She sighed and made herself breakfast, a box of cereal she had to buy with her own money because Mother had decided she wouldn't raise a freeloader anymore. Emma picked up another part-time job just to make rent and used her major savings for food. Soon, Emma disappeared more, toe by toe, then up to her knees. She found that she could float if her mind didn't dwell on the fact that her feet were gone. She wore long, thick socks over air, and the socks somehow wrapped around the feet-shaped nothingness. No one would know anything was wrong this way. Afterwards, the emptiness reached her thighs, her hips, her waist. She panicked. Last year, Emma had missed a visit to Dad's. That day, Mother had threatened to kill herself if Emma dared to go to him. Emma compromised. When it was time for the next visit, though, Dad didn't answer the door. His neighbors said that they hadn't seen the man in weeks, even though they'd last seen him entering his home. Months passed, and Dad was simply gone. Emma cried at the thought of disappearing, until Mother banged on her bedroom door telling her that she had no right to be upset. Not when Mother's life was so much more difficult. Emma yanked the door open, pushed past her mother, and drove to her dad's house. By now, she only existed from the neck up. Emma locked herself in her dad's empty house. Mother appeared just minutes later, banging on the door and yelling some more. Emma stopped caring. She simply wanted to disappear. "I want you gone, Mother," Emma said out loud. Suddenly the banging stopped. Emma opened the door and found no one, except Mother's car was still there, blocking the neighbor's driveway. Emma touched her legs. All there, as if they'd never gone away. She took off her socks and counted her toes. 10. There were 10 again. She turned back to look at the empty house with a smile. "I did it, Dad," she said, raising her feet to show the air. "I found my toes, and all it cost was Mother." For a moment, she could have sworn the air crackled with joy.